Good morning, everyone. Thank you for joining us today. This is our last presentation of the fall semester, and a good resource at that. Hopefully you will benefit from this presentation on opposing viewpoints. But before we get started, this screen is just giving you some suggestions and pointers of what to do and what not to do during the presentation. Just a reminder, this will be recorded or is being recorded, and we will entertain comments and questions at the end. My name is Jose Aranda. I work at Doña Ana Community College Library, and we've been presenting several of our resources and some services throughout the summer and fall, and we will conclude this series with today's presentation on opposing viewpoints, which is a library database. It's owned by Gale. It's very popular, very useful, and I will discuss some of the highlights. Of course, not everything. Some of these databases are very sophisticated and have lots of features, and it just would take much longer presentation to go over all of those. And so if you have a question or a desire to have more instruction, we can provide that to you on a more personal basis. So like most of our resources, they're all found on the library's homepage. So what you see here is a picture of the library homepage, and also on top is the web address of our library, of the DACC Library. So to access our databases, you should see some tabs there in the middle towards the bottom. It starts with the discovery search, and then right next to that is databases. That is what you would click on to access the database. There's a big blue arrow there indicating, and there's two ways to do that. You can actually click on where the blue arrow is hovering over. If you click on that, it will list in alphabetical order all the databases that way, or you can click on the See All Databases link, and it'll give you a different page. And here's a picture of that, again, of all the databases we subscribe to in alphabetical order. You would then, of course, have to go scroll down to the O's to find opposing viewpoints, or DACC, opposing viewpoints. If you click on that, you will have to authenticate. So use your MyNMSU credentials to do so. If there's ever a problem with that, of course, give us a call and we'll work to troubleshoot that. But once you do that, then you should be able to have access clearly to opposing viewpoints. Now, the complete title of the database is actually Gale in Context, Opposing Viewpoints. Apparently, Gale in Context is a much broader series of their products that includes one or two more databases, but most people know it as Opposing Viewpoints. It's been around a long time and it's very popular, and I hope to tell you why. But anyways, this is a picture of what you should see when you successfully log in and authenticate via our homepage. So what is Opposing Viewpoints? In a nutshell, it's a database that has lots of information, but primarily focuses on social issues. Types of issues that are current of the day, where there's lots of current events, newspaper, that type of thing. It's in the news, in other words, that students can research about, learn about, but primarily also, it's perfect for being able to take sides. These are issues that you can break up into a pro and con, a for or against. So There's information, there's factual information, but also there are editorial resources that argue one side or the other. In a nutshell, that's what opposing viewpoints is. But I will read their official definition, their introduction to the resource. So, Gale in Context, Opposing Viewpoints is a premier online resource covering today's hottest social issues, from capital punishment to immigration to marijuana. This cross-curricular resource supports science, social studies, current events, and language arts classes. Informed, differing views help learners develop critical thinking skills and draw their own conclusions. Opposing Viewpoints is a rich resource for debaters and includes viewpoints, reference articles, infographics, news, images, videos, audio, and more. A category on the national debate topic provides quick and easy access to content on frequently studied and discussed issues. Periodical content covers current events, news, and commentary, economics, environmental issues, political science, and more. So there you have it. So there's a lot of reasons why I like this database. One of them is hopefully what you should be seeing now in this screen, and that's the picture. I tried taking a picture of some of the issues. Of course, it doesn't cover all of them. They could not fit on the page, but they produce and organize information according to issues, and they list those issues. If you go to the tab where it says Browse Issues, so you see this list of topics, issues. But many times students come to us and they're at the stage where they don't know what to do. They don't know what topic to pick. They've been given the assignment, kind of understand it, but they don't have an idea of what their topic is. So many times, and this doesn't have to be for an argumentative or debate type assignment. Anytime a student needs help brainstorming, I like to provide them with resources like this, because when they read this list, it kind of hopefully inspires in them brainstorming, and so they can get an idea of what to think about or what possible topics they may entertain. So that's what I love. That's the first thing that I like about this database, is that if you look at their browsing page of all the issues they cover, it does many things. So it helps students find topics that they can use, but also can inspire other topics that they may not have thought about. So, this is a real organized way to use opposing viewpoints. And many times they're updated, and you'd be surprised how current the list is. So yeah, a great resource even for instructors. If they have an assignment and they'd like to modernize it, for example, they too can generate ideas from this page. But of course, you can also search, like many of the databases, through the search box, where you would type in your search terms. So here I try to capture on the left picture there, me typing in a search term, right? Abortion. So what I like about this, and many of the databases do this, is they have that smart text technology capability, where before you even finish and hit enter, they provide you with a list of related terms and suggestions. And so that too can be very useful and helpful for students and researchers using this database, again, generating, brainstorming other possibilities and ideas. But of course, when you hit enter and you find the topic, on the right-hand side, you see a picture of what you would see. So in this case, abortion, you would see the overview, an introduction to the topic, and then you will be introduced to all the resources associated with that topic. And there are many, okay? There are many. So when you scroll down, the first thing you'll see is these different types of resources available. You see that gray box there. And what it's doing is it's telling you, it's providing you a preview of all the different types of resources within opposing viewpoints that they have on this topic. So they break them down into the types of resources and formats. So it doesn't just provide articles, and it just doesn't provide articles that are viewpoints, and I'll explain in a minute what those are. So it's really cross platform access. So if, for example, if you notice, there are links to videos and magazine articles and newspaper articles and websites. So it really provides the gamut of what's available within this database. So a really one-stop shop too. That's neat. That's really useful and helpful that Opposing Viewpoints does this. But their main feature, and this is what some people may get confused at times, are their viewpoints, because it's in the title, right? Opposing Viewpoints. What are the viewpoints? Viewpoints are editorials that Opposing Viewpoints publishes and provides. These editorials are going to be arguments or debates or essays, etc., on one side or the other of the topic. So it can be real interesting for an instructor to use this type of resource in their instruction to show students that although based on fact and evidence, these are people's opinions on the topic, and that may be a goal or an objective for an assignment that the instructor may have for that student or for their students. But they also need to be made aware of how to use those types of resources, whereas some of the other resources, such as academic journals, are going to be strictly factual, right, presenting evidence and research-based information. So the combination of the two can be very synergistic in the student's ability to comprehend the issue, maybe personalize it, and then be able to produce, for example, an essay, a paper on one of the sides of the issue. Some students, some users may get confused when they get to this page and they see, the plethora of information. I'm just trying to explain to you that Opposing Viewpoints offers a variety of information, but their specialty are these viewpoints, which are the editorials. So many times I tell students, if you ever read the newspaper and you get to the editorial section, particularly here in the Sun News on the Sunday edition, you'll see many editorials, which are people's opinions about certain topic, news events, stuff like that. So they can be very useful for research as well, but they just need to be made aware of the nature of the source and how to use it in their assignments. So Opposing Viewpoints breaks them down into featured viewpoints and viewpoints. Of course, featured viewpoints may be those that are more recent or more popular, but all viewpoints are editorials, and they're not just written essays that you would find in the newspaper. These are very scholarly and professionally written. Oh, by the way, all the resources that are linked in Opposing Viewpoints are full text. So when you click on them, you will have complete access to the resource. So if we were to click on one of those articles that I just mentioned, the viewpoints, you'll see something very similar to what you see now on this page. And so I have tried to use these arrows to illustrate what all this means for you. So the first one, obviously, is the title. Okay, even though they could be editorials, they are still titled pieces of work. And so number one would indicate the name, the title of the resource. And then below it, you have who wrote it and when, okay, the author and the date, where it was published and by whom. That would be the second arrow. And how long is it? What type of essay is it? Gale even provides these reading levels or content levels and lexical measurements. Neat additional information, and that would be in the arrow number 3. The 6, 7, and 8 is the ability to change the font. If the text is too small, you can increase the size. You can have it read to you digitally. And arrow number 5 is just a variety of actions you can take when you're on an article that are very common among all the databases, right? You want to print it, you want to save it, download it, email it to yourself, store it on the cloud. Those are the features that you find. And then, of course, you have the full text article below it, which in this picture you don't see all of it, just the beginning, but you always have that ability within opposing viewpoints. And then on the right-hand side, another thing that I like about opposing viewpoints is that it immediately, when you're on the article level, provides you with other suggestions. So as you're browsing and thinking about whether or not this is a good resource for you to use, you have this, explore these other areas or suggestions on the right-hand side as you read. So lots of information here, but when you have an assignment and you understand the directions and the parameters of it, and then you are in the process of securing resources for you to use, hopefully you're thinking a lot of things in your mind about what you'd like to write about or talk about and what you can use and need. And so all these various pieces of information here should help you do just that. I always suggest students that when you come across an article or a resource like this and you're unsure, you may think you can use it or it can be helpful, save it somehow. Bookmark it, as long as you don't close the database during that session, you have the ability to do something so that if you decide later, maybe I should use that article, or maybe, I do want to use it now. If you do something at this stage, you will save yourself a lot of time and effort. So emailing it to yourself is one example that I give students to do. It doesn't really cost you anything. Sending it to your email, you have it stored there. If later you decide you don't need it, just delete the email. But if you do decide you need it, then you don't have to go through the searching of the database that you've done already. It's in your email saved. And of course, there's other ways there too, right? That you can do things like that. So just a piece of advice that I give students. So this is a picture of that same article, but at the bottom at the end of it, right? So another thing that I like about opposing viewpoints is that it provides you with these guiding questions, right? Really great pieces of information, and in this case, questions to guide. And if you read them, they can help you maybe focus, narrow your topic, introduce concepts you hadn't thought about, make you think about the issue that you maybe hadn't thought about that you could use. And of course, the related subjects on the right-hand side to brainstorm other possibilities if you're still at that stage. These could just be really useful in narrowing down your writing, for example. And another thing that I like about opposing viewpoints is, when students have an assignment typical where they have to take a stance on an issue, it's still very important and wise for them to research the other side that they may not be for, right? So it is wise because if you know what the other side is arguing, then that could help prepare your argument and your side of the issue. So it doesn't hurt. In fact, it helps if you know both sides of the issue, regardless of the assignment that you must do. So that's another reason of the many that I mentioned that I like about opposing viewpoints. Another thing I like about Gale is that they give you tools that you can use. So in this case, the first arrow indicates citing your sources, right? You can select the style that you want, and then it'll give you an example of how to cite this exact article or your bibliography. I just caution students that sometimes these are not perfect, and so you should always review them. But still, nonetheless, a nice feature to have. And below that, the export to, these are more perhaps sophisticated resources that some researchers use that could then export this information into these more these other software that organize references for them. And so I just wanted to highlight that. I have to move this little thing here. And the last arrow below that is just the Gale reference for FYI. So lots of information there when you land on an article page within opposing viewpoints, but many of them are there to help you. Okay, you're on this journey to search for and research on a topic, but during that journey, you may take turns to focus or broaden or narrow your topic, or you may want to change your topic altogether. And so there's a lot of these features built in within the database and the articles that do just that. Again, more pictures of parts within the article and the database that provide suggestions for other things to consider that are relevant to the topic. So it kind of provides this branching out, for if you will, of the topic. So that too can be very useful for both instructors and researchers, right, to pinpoint their argument or to bring up other relevant subjects that may help in doing so. So a neat feature to have. So this was a brief introduction overview to opposing viewpoints. I think it's an awesome database, very useful. You'd be surprised, even if you don't have an issue-based topic, you'd be surprised what kind of information you may still find in this database. Remember at the beginning, I showed you the plethora of resources that are linked and referenced to. So it's got that feature that's very, very powerful. But it is focused on social issues of the day. The neat things about this database is that they're all in full text. You don't have to worry about just citations and having to look for it someplace else. They also link to other resources too. So for instructors, if you allow your students to use this resource, you know you'll be guiding them into other areas that are credible in terms of the linked resources. Having both sides of the issue fosters critical thinking, lots of critical thinking opportunities within the use of this resource, and that issues are easily browsable, either by the list of the topics they provide or by searching them in the search box, and also with the capability of helping you brainstorm. Hope you enjoyed this presentation and learned a thing or two. Please share it with your friends and colleagues. We'd like to thank you for joining us. This concludes the series on these presentations for this semester and year. We don't know what the next one is, but there will be next ones for next semester. If you have any suggestions, please let us know, and we could get working on those, and including collaborations with any of the other resources or departments on campus or interests that you may have. Our email there is listed, library@dacc.nmsu.edu. Thank you for joining us. Have a good rest of the day.